So that certain Aquaman starlet's lawyer turned on her on the stand during depositions in a bombshell exclusive you're only going to hear about right here. Now, this is why that certain Aquaman starlet is going to end up losing their case too. Why? Because it talks about who that op-ed is about, how they took measures to conceal that it was about JD, and also how they expected to get sued, but they were doing their best to minimize the likelihood anyone would bring that, even though they knew, again, the damage that this would do. When you connect that with the secret letters behind the scenes detailing who wrote that op-ed, how they went out of their way to try to hide who it was about, trying to dodge the NDA or non-disclosure agreement, while also skirting around talk about a marriage, and also how you have the breakdown here actually giving you the first drafts, yeah, that certain Aquaman starlet, they are done. So, hey there to all you fine folks on this fine day, by the way. I hope you are doing excellently. And talk about betrayal and spilling the tea. Oh, this stuff, like I said, it's exclusive. 376 pages of deposition, wherein you find out this is the lawyer that was contacted to look over the op-ed, basically detailing whether or not that certain Aquaman starlet would end up getting sued. Now, interestingly, one of the things that he makes very clear right away is that he wasn't the only lawyer privy to this information. The lawyers from the UK 2020 trial, they knew about this information as well. So, while that certain Aquaman starlet was trying to get this struck down, saying this was never about JD, her lawyers full well knew that that wasn't real. You can see that disclosed right here. Jennifer Robinson, she knew. Now then this comes up, and I thought that this was a bombshell revelation because this tells you why that certain Aquaman starlet brought this person in. Quote, question, okay, now before I start asking you questions about this particular document, I'm going to ask you, in connection with the op-ed, what, if anything, was your objective in representing that certain Aquaman starlet with respect to the review and revision of the op-ed? Answer, I reviewed it and spent some significant time on it to make sure that there would be no meritorious claim that could be brought against her in connection with a defamation or related type of tort claim, and ideally with that in mind to minimize the possibility of her ever being sued in connection with publishing it. Now later, this is further clarified by putting JD's name in the mix. Quote, it is truly what I mentioned earlier, which is that my involvement was to ensure that there would be no meritorious legal claim that could be brought against her arising out of the publication of the piece, and moreover, to minimize the likelihood, obviously, anyone can bring suit for anything, but to minimize the likelihood that somebody actually would bring the suit. And we did. In particular, have in mind, who did they have in mind here? JD. That's right. Then they were asked, why exactly did you have him in mind? And they said that there was an agreement between JD and that certain Aquaman starlet to begin with. They were talking about the non-disclosure agreement. And in addition to that, he's somebody I've regarded as highly litigious based on other lawsuits that he's brought in and in recent past. So they're admitting here right now who the op-ed is about, the means that they were going to try to camouflage that so they weren't going to get sued. Again, this admits everything. That is the entirety of the case that you see before you. Now, another thing that certain Aquaman starlet has tried to do is to dodge culpability. Oh, they're the ones that wrote it. I didn't have anything to do with it, but if you look at some of the things that they're discussing here, 100% she was involved. Question, I'm going to ask you, it starts out with a chain that we just talked about with what Jen Roberts says, and then it goes up, and it has that certain Aquaman starlet on December 7th saying, great, I'm happy with this, talking about how that article looks. Do we have everyone's approval to give it back to, well, you know, the organization? Now, added to this is that ambassador title. I'm sure you've heard of that from that co-conspirator organization. Well, get this. It was given for the express intent of making this article hit home. That certain Aquaman starlet knew it, the co-conspirator organization knew it, and well, we're going to have our lawyer give it away right here. Question. So it really is starting there. All right. And it starts with Jody G emailing to Jessica. We're so thrilled to hear that certain Aquaman starlet will be an official ambassador for, well, you know who they are. So when did you learn about that ambassador? About that certain Aquaman starlet becoming an official ambassador for them? Answer. I can't pinpoint the date. The best I can do is to tell you that it was around the time period, one of the earliest exhibits that you had shown me, in which I was directly CC'd or a direct recipient to the email. So, given for the express intent to hammer this thing home. Now, things they get much worse for that certain Aquaman starlet there, as this lawyer, he talks about why he's hired, and he talks about the non-disclosure agreement. Listen to this, and make sure to pay careful attention. This destroys that certain Aquaman starlet's case. So my objective was to make sure there could be no meritorious claim that could be brought against that certain Aquaman starlet in connection with the publication of the op-ed, whether that's a tort related to, say, defamation or something akin to it, but also including any contract-based breach claim arising in connection with the judgment. All right, so they say, thank you. I'm going to bring that up. This is your non-disclosure agreement. This is what that certain Aquaman starlet agreed to. Quote, except for documents previously filed with the court, neither petitioner nor respondent shall discuss, publish, or post, or cause to be discussed, published, or posted directly or indirectly any information pertaining to the parties' premarital relations, marriage, or this dissolution action on the internet, including but not limited to social media applications, websites, blogs, news periodicals, etc., or in the media in any matter. Petitioner and respondent shall also instruct their respective agent, friends, family members, and representatives not to communicate and or act in any way contrary to this provision. Now, crazy enough, that certain Aquaman starlet actually wanted to use the NDA in the article. You can see that mentioned here. She wanted to say, I signed an agreement not to talk about my marriage, and I will not do that here. And the lawyer, he reveals he was not happy about this at all, saying, those folks, they're surely well-intentioned, but they don't understand how broad that NDA is. It literally prevents you from writing or discussing any information about your marriage or divorce. That's why I wrote edits the way I did. And he says during the deposition, I meant exactly those words too, that I was not going to compromise in any effort to accommodate anyone else may not know about the specifics of the confidentiality requirements and the judgment of dissolution of marriage, if to do so would expose that certain Aquaman starlet to any claim of breach. So they know what they're doing here. They're writing it about JD. They're just trying not to get sued. They weaponize Aquaman. They do so many other things in this document. I mean, we're only 75 pages into 376. I mean, that's how crazy this thing is. Let me know what you think about it, though. And check out the link in the description. That is our book. That's our way of combating industry that allowed this nonsense to happen. Those places have attacked customers. They told you you're not wanted. Fine. Close your wallet. Move over to an alternative. Help us send a message. Thank you, too. I'll go through the rest of this in a live stream. I mean, it is crazy. But let me know what you think. Thank you for being here. Until next time. See ya.